Hello, my little monsters. How are all my friends doing today? Today we're going to read another fun story about monsters. And then we're going to talk more about cutting and coloring and using that nice hand strength. We've really been doing a lot of that. You guys have been working on writing your names. I showed you how to have the body of a good writer and sit up nice and tall when they're working and doing a great job at that. So we've been doing all that stuff, so we're going to keep going with that. And we're just going to finish up with a little bit of cutting and gluing practice, talking again about your pencils and your crayons. So today, when you're watching this video, when you're finished, you're going to need this paper that has your scissors and this paper that has the picture of crayon, scissors, and glue. We're going to be using both of these today. Then you're going to need some crayons to do your work, a happy pencil. Remember we said happy pencils make happy words, a glue stick, and your scissors, okay? So those are the things that you're gonna need. So if you don't have those things in your area right now, you can press pause, take a little break and go grab them, and then come back and listen to our story. So I always like to read you a story, boys and girls. I think reading it's my most favorite thing to do, and I think it's really important for you guys to be listening to stories. And when you're in the classroom, we read lots of stories and you do lots of listening, and it's very enjoyable. So I wanna make sure that we're still doing that too. So I just kind of grabbed a fun story that I like called Monster Academy is my title. And academy sometimes is another word that people will use for a school. The school that I went to when I was in high school was called Immaculata Academy. So they said it instead of a high school, they can call it an academy. So we talked about looking at our cover before we read, and here's my title. We always read that first. And that's usually the biggest thing on the page, the biggest words on the page, I should say. And then I take a look at what I have here, and here I can see all kinds of different stuff. I see monsters, and they're not like the silly furry monsters that we kind of have in our classroom. These are like the monsters, like maybe Halloween-y type monsters. And this one looks like a mummy. And then down here, it looks like we have a little vampire. That guy's only got one eye, and then some scary monsters. But I'm gonna guess that this is the teacher because she's standing up by the chalkboard. So I'm thinking to myself, my story is Monster Academy, and here it's going to be about my teacher that's a mummy. I'm thinking that's who that is, and about her students who seem to be down here. So let's read and find out if that's really what's happening. And I'm reading this book with, let's see, with permission of Scholastic. So welcome to Monster Academy. What does Principal Frank N. Stein have to say? In you go. Let me move this way so you guys can see the pages. Hello, monsters. Come on in. When everyone's here, class will begin. I hear some rhyming words. Miss Mummy, so many bandages. Did you get hurt? Serpentine snakes hiss. That didn't rhyme. I'm not hurt. I'm just old. I look good for my age, or so I'm told. And why do your words rhyme? Asked Bog. Every mummy has a curse. Mine is that I speak in verse, but it could be worse. I could scream when I converse. Converse is another word for talking. But are little monsters scared of screams? No, they scream right back. Arrgh. I count. Yeti, Yachty, Fifi, Speck, Serpentina, Vic, Bog. Wait. That's 7 when we should have 8. Our newest monster is late. I hear so many rhyming words. 8, late. Crash. It's our new student. Here we go. You must be a Tornado Joe. Zoom. But Joe shouts, no. Say hello, the students yell. No, says Joe, spinning in Vic's lunchbox. No, says Joe, knocking over Bog's chair. No, says Joe, bumping into Speck. No, says Joe, yanking Serpentine Snake. No, says Joe, kicking the table near Yeti and Yachty. No, says Tornado Joe. No, no, no. Joe is the worst monster ever, yips Fifi. Make Tornado Joe stop. We're all monsters, Fifi dear. Joe will learn some manners here. Dear in here. No, 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 no. Tornado Joe spins and spins and spins until oomph. Joe lands on the floor. These monsters sound really crazy. Our little monsters in our classroom don't act like this. Now get up, Joe. It's time for math. Count your missing teeth for our monster tooth graph. We do a graph. We do a weather graph every morning. It's kind of like that. That's cool. Poor Vic Vampire Poor Vampire Vic. He wiggles his big scary fang. He doesn't want to say 0. How about you, Joe? Missing teeth? Any above, any beneath? No, says Joe. But Joe is missing a tooth. Miss Mummy writes it down. Now quick, how about you, Vic? Vic jiggles his loose fang. 0, he says. He almost cries. That's okay, right? Some people don't lose teeth until like 2nd grade. Add up the teeth, 12, you say. Good job, we'll go to the lab today. Yay. And what do you think little monsters build at Monster Maker's lab? This book's silly because some of my words rhyme and some of them don't. A creepy castle. Everybody helps, even the class bats. Everybody but Joe. Come on, Joe, Serpentina yells. It's fun. Her snakes hiss, but Joe says no. Now it's almost lunchtime. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Vic pulls his fang. It won't come out. Have you ever had a loose tooth and you tried to get it out and it won't? Vic is so unhappy. He doesn't care when Joe grabs his blood orange and gives him a big juicy apple. Does Joe want to be friends? Maybe. Oh, crunch, crunch, crunch. Vic takes 3 big bites. Want some? He asks Joe. No, says Joe. Time for monster recess. Run to the swamp pool, but only Vic goes in all alone. Help me make a swamp monster, Vic asks Joe. No, says Joe. Tornado Joe stomps and kicks swamp stink at Vic. It splatters on everyone. You are the worst monster ever, says Fifi. And then she looks at Vic and howls. Your fang is gone. Where is it, Bog says. You need it for the tooth troll. That must be like their tooth fairy. Help me find it, cries Vic, please. Everyone shouts yes, but Joe says no. Speck, Bog, and the twins search high. No fang. Serpentina, Fifi, and Vic search low. No fang. Miss Mummy checks the swamp pool. No fang. Please help, Joe, says Vic. No, no, no. Tornado Joe begins to spin. And spin and spin and spin and spin. Whoosh. One final spin, and Joe falls over. You're a human? Screams Vic. No, shouts Joe. I'm a monster. Help, yells Vic. There's a human in our class. Yikes. Hurry, get back to school. Lock the doors. I told you so. Joe is the worst monster ever. What happens when monster children see a human? Monsters run. Back inside, Miss Mummy calms down. Joe is a human and a monster too. She belongs in a class just like each of you. How can you be both? I get it, says Vic. We're scary, but so is she. So Tornado Joe is one of us, they howl. Vic gives a big gap fang smile. We couldn't find my tooth, Miss Mummy, but it still counts as 1. I'm not a 0 anymore. Everyone cheers, even Miss Mummy. She writes a big number 1 next to Vic's name. Miss Mummy, says Fifi, now we can change the total from 12 to 13. The perfect monster number. They say that because some people say that the number 13 is bad luck. So that's probably why he's saying it's the perfect number for a monster. The school bell rings. Time for monsters to go home. Principal Frank Einstein says, how was the new monster today? She's the worst monster ever, the whole class shouts. But this time, Joe smiles. Our little Joe, let's just say, Joe's starting to learn our monster way. Sometimes it's hard when you begin, but now I think she'll fit right in. Before they leave, Joe points. My tooth, Vic yells. Ernie has it. Thanks, Joe. See you tomorrow. Yes, says Joe. Yes, you will. So that was a nice ending. So it was about a school, and the mummy was the teacher, right? Except for one monster was just pretending, but they ended up loving her anyway. So that's a nice story. Just a fun monster story before we get started with our work. Now, we're gonna be using our hands. So let's stretch them out, let's shake them out and get them nice and ready for us. Awesome. I'm gonna get the chair, my body of a good writer, my feet are on the floor, my back's against the back of my chair real nice. I'm sitting up tall. I have my first paper. We're gonna start with this one with the scissors. And up here it says the word name, so I know I gotta sing my song before I get started. The first thing on your paper is your name. The first thing on your paper is your name. The teacher needs to know who did this work and so. The first thing on your paper is your name. So I'm gonna get my pinchers ready. I'm gonna put my pencil in my pinchers like this. And it's gonna rest on my other finger. So your nice and ready. Gotta take my helper hand and hold my paper down. And I'm gonna start my letters at the top. I'm gonna go nice and slow. I'll write my first names for you guys today. And I'm gonna take my time and write all the letters in my name. Boys and girls, if you need help and you can't remember your name, remember that I gave you your name tags. You can use that to help you remember how to write the letters in your name. Or we did the pencil activity or your chicka boom boom. You can use any of that stuff to help you remember, okay? That's why that stuff is there. Now it's gonna be kind of weird because we're gonna get our scissors out. Now when we use our scissors at school, boys and girls, there's lots of rules, and they probably should have the same rules at home. Scissors are only used for cutting paper. Scissors are very sharp, and scissors can be dangerous. So we have to be very, very careful with them. We only cut paper. We don't cut hair. You gotta go to a special school to learn how to cut hair. And we never cut our clothes, okay? We only cut paper. And we never wave them around like this. Oh, no, no, no. And you'll find out when you're in the classroom, we don't ever walk around with scissors. We put them in our pencil boxes. So at home, we're gonna get our scissors ready. Remember, our thumb goes in the little hole and our fingers go here. Remember, we put this finger up top. And whenever you cut, your thumb stays up. I gotta get my helper hand ready because he's gonna be busy today. So the directions say, cut the dotted line, stop when you get to the shape. So here's our shapes on this side. So I have to start where the scissors are. My helper hand is gonna hold my paper. And remember, when you're cutting, your helper hand moves more than this hand. And you do little bites. See my little bites? Okay. So I'm gonna hold it with my helper hand and I'm gonna go nice and slow and I'm gonna cut right on that line. See how I'm doing little bites and I'm moving my helper hand? Nice and slow. And I'm gonna stop. Notice, boys and girls, where were my eyes the whole time I was cutting? Was I looking at the sky? Was I looking for Mrs. Otis? No, I was looking at my paper. That's very important. And I'm gonna stop when I get to my shape. So that's my first cut, and I stop at the shape. So when you're finished, your paper is gonna look a little funny because you're gonna cut real slow and you're gonna get to the end of each one. Now I'm going a little faster than you're going to, and that's just because I'm a pro cutter. I've been cutting for a really long time and I practice every single day. And when you're a pro cutter, you'll be able to be this fast too. But I want you guys to go a little bit more slowly, okay? So when you're finished, your paper is gonna kind of look like this, okay? And if that's tough for you and your hand's getting tired, you can take a break. Take a break and go back. Because then you're gonna do this page, friends. And there should be another piece of paper in there. If there's not, you can just use any sheet of scrap paper you have at your house. So the first thing we do is when you're in school and you have a paper like this, we always color, then cut. And we always color with crayons. We don't color with pencils. We only write with pencils. So I'm gonna pick for my crayon, I'm gonna make it blue, because I really like blue. When you hold your crayon, you hold it just like a pencil. You get your pinchers out, pinch it, rest it. Now I'm gonna hold my paper down with my helper hand. I'm gonna do my very best to stay in the lines. Some of my friends have said it's hard to stay in the lines. I know it is, and that's why you're going to practice it. We don't color like this. We're in kindergarten now. We don't color big, messy stuff. We're gonna do our best to go nice and slow. See how I'm just coloring a little bit at a time to try to stay in the lines. I know it's hard to stay in the lines, but we're gonna really do our best to try to stay in there. And it's okay if we go out a little bit, but we're not gonna scribble and make a big mess. When you are finished coloring all three of your items, time for your scissors again. And you're gonna cut on these dotted lines. It's gonna take you a little while, and that's okay. So we're gonna use our scissors and our helper hand. We're gonna take little bites. Cut, cut, cut. Cut, 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 cut. See how I'm turning the paper and not the scissors? And here is my crayon shape. So this is all cut out for me. I don't have an extra paper, so I'm just gonna use this one. I'm gonna use the paper that I have in here. Perfect. You should have a piece of paper in your green folders with nothing on it. Or you could reuse an old piece of paper that we already worked on. That's a great idea. We're gonna practice using our glue sticks, and I know we talked about it. We take our cap off. See how it's nice and neat? Mine's like turned down. Can you see that, friends? My glue stick is like really, really low in there, so I have to turn it up. But see how I should use the purple one so you can see it a little more. See how I just put it up just a little bit? You don't need that much glue. So I'm gonna put this, I'm not gonna do my glue stick like this, it's too hard. I'm gonna put it down on the opposite side, and I'm gonna put in a little X on the back, or just a little bit. That's it, little dab will do ya. And then I'm gonna practice gluing it onto my other paper. You can put it wherever you want, have a little fun with it. You're gonna put it down, press it down a little bit, and there you go. You can glue it right to the paper. When you are finished with that, you're gonna take your glue stick, you're gonna wind it back down again. See how it's not sticking out? So the glue's nice and safe inside. I'm gonna get my cap, and I'm gonna snap the cap. Ready? Yes. Now I know it's ready, and my glue won't dry out. So when you're finished, all your pieces will be colored nice and glued on there. Do your best, boys and girls. I know this is hard stuff, and it's gonna make your hands kind of tired, and that's okay, because we're gonna get strong kindergarten writing hands. All right, boys and girls, take a break, shake them out if you need to. All right, friends? So that's our lesson for today. I hope you enjoyed our story. Do a nice job with your cutting and your coloring, and do your very, very, very best work. Okay, boys and girls? Make good choices. I'll see you soon.